fit for you.
I'm Kevin Kugler with an NCAA tournament spotlight on Michigan State. The Big Ten champions are a 2 seed that needed an impressive effort last Sunday to knock off the number 1 seed in the East Region, Duke. Now the Spartans head to their 8th Final Four under Coach Tom Izzo to face Texas Tech in a national semifinals game that promises to be an all-out defensive battle. To make sure you don't miss any of the action, tune in to Westwood One's exclusive coverage of the NCAA Final Four right here.
Hello, college basketball fans. I'm State Farm agent Cole Perez. State Farm has over 19,000 agents across the country. To give you an idea of how big a number that actually is, I will be counting to 19,000 on the radio. Okay, here goes. 1, 2, 3, 4. What? We only have 30 seconds. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Talk to one of our over 19,000 State Farm agents about combining your home and auto insurance today.
I'm never gonna make it.
State Farm, here to help life go right.
Now this news update on Wisconsin Radio Network. I'm Bob Haig. More criticisms for Governor Tony Evers' budget proposal, a blunt assessment from Joint Finance Committee co-chair Representative John Nygren.
I would say your budget, or the governor's budget, however we want to characterize this, actually disincentivizes work.
Nygren said that includes ending work search requirements to receive unemployment benefits. Some students at a Milwaukee area high school accused of using racist language. The Whitefish Bay School District sending a letter to parents. The accusations caught some black students by surprise.
Kind of sad, I guess, like that someone would actually do that. It's kind of just like let down.
The letter said that some white students are asking black friends for permission to say the N-word. Senator Tammy Baldwin has joined a push by Democrats to ensure that health care coverage for people with pre-existing conditions continues. A similar measure has already passed the House, but a vote's unlikely in the Senate. Wisconsin Radio Network.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? When a tornado is tearing through town? Or a hurricane strikes? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. And it's not always as simple as using your cell phone. That's why now is the time to take action. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
From planting the garden to planning the backyard barbecue, get everything you need for spring at the Fleet Farm Lawn and Garden event. Get huge savings on things like Scott's Lawn Pro Crabgrass Preventer plus fertilizer, $14.99. A Garden View 4-piece patio sofa set, $449.99. Scott's Color Stay Mulch, 4 bags for $10. And a 28-inch patio fireplace, $49.99. Fleet Farm is built for every season. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
When it comes to physical and occupational therapy, depend on Prairie Ridge Health Clinic, Beaver Dam, and Columbus. Their licensed athletic trainer provides therapy for injured athletes or athletes recovering from acute orthopedic surgery. The occupational therapists are skilled in treating patients of all ages. Whatever the problem, decreased range of motion, chronic pain, coordination, or fine motor dysfunction, the physical and occupational therapists at Prairie Ridge Health Clinic, Beaver Dam, and Columbus are ready to go the extra mile to make you well again.
Now also serving in Marshall. I'm here with Bev Anderson from Anderson Real Estate, and it's time to ask Bev. We've got questions about real estate, and she has the answers.
What should you do to spotlight your home? You want to highlight your home in the best possible light to attract buyers. Close-ups of shower curtains, toilets, clothes on the floor, unmade beds may tell buyers the home isn't loved and well cared for. Make sure the yard is appealing, the lawn is mown, plants look healthy. These will help the home look inviting from the outside. Spruce up before pictures and before showings. Get into a daily routine of once around the house, either before going to bed or before leaving in the morning. This will help keep your home in tip-top shape for showings.
This has been Ask Bev, brought to you by Anderson Real Estate. If you have a real estate question you'd like to ask Bev, give her a call at 920-887-2434. That's 887-2434.
1237 from AM 1430 WBEV, streaming online at dailydodge.com. It is time now for today's community comment. Here's your host, Craig Warmbold.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon. Welcome to Community Comment. Our guests on Community Comment today are with the Beaver Dam Police Department. We want to welcome you to listen to today's broadcast. If you're on AM 1430 WBEV, please note that you can go at any time to www.dailydodge.com, and you can stream Community Comment in audio form, and on occasion we do video stream the program as well. Today is one of those days that we are video streaming Community Comment. So if you just click on the video tab and wait a minute or so, you'll see the video stream of live video stream of today's program come up. And then after the show, that will be posted there on the video tab for playback at a later date. We do want to get confirmation from our audio engineer that everything's a go, and we'll introduce our guests here on the program today. They are with the Beaver Dam Police Department. We want to welcome current Sergeant with the Beaver Dam Police Department, Eric Smeedema. Thank you very much for joining us today. I believe there is going to be a bit of a title change for you in the very near future, if I'm not mistaken.
On the 15th, I will be promoted to lieutenant.
Well, congratulations. I believe the Police and Fire Commission recently approved that advancement. I believe our other guest here started, we were just talking about this, not quite when you were a sergeant with the Beaver Dam Police Department, as far as coming on Community Comment here.
That is correct. I believe it was when I was
Patrolman John Kruezinger was 10 years ago.
That's a long
12
time.
years ago. And you've moved through the ranks, sergeant, lieutenant, and here you are the chief of police.
Yep, lieutenant of detectives also, then chief in the township too for
That's right.
15 years or so.
For a number of years in the township as well.
Yeah.
Our relationship here on Community Comment goes back to, I think it was 2007 when we started this regular first Friday of the month meeting. We appreciate you coming in on a day like today. You've left the show in very good hands with Sergeant Eric Smeedema and Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson.
Yep, he will be on soon, so that on days I'm working, I can sleep and he can come on.
Oh, it's not going to be tandem anymore. We're gonna get
well,
Sergeant.
you never know who we might bring.
Because you're going to be changing shifts too. That means so
I will still be on third shift.
Okay.
Jeremiah will be coming to third shift.
But he's the low man on the totem pole,
and we'll
so
work,
he draws the short
We'll
straw.
work opposite rotation, so depending on how it works out and what we have planned.
All right. Well, so occasionally you're going to have to bring the police chief in with you.
Yeah, got him 2 months in a row.
Well, it's good for the new sergeants and new supervisors just to be able to come here and be part of this show, and it's good for them to get that experience because they have to plan for the show. They have to have that relationship with the media here. I like to have a good working relationship with the media. You have a story that you need to get out, and sometimes we need to get information out. So it's good for our new sergeants to come on here and get familiar with being behind the scenes and working with the media. So I think it's good to have our sergeants do that every time they get promoted. So that's kind of going to be a requirement as I've been the chief, is just to be able to come on Community Comment with who's ever on the show here and there when they can.
Jeremiah doesn't mind talking, so
yeah, he's a good. He'll be good. He'll do a good job. He's excellent.
We've enjoyed any time that he's been. We've really enjoyed this idea of being able to have folks from your department on once a month, and it's not just been these individuals we've been talking about. We've been fortunate to have the entire cross-section of your department on, from the detectives unit to the chaplain to the patrolman and all the way up through sergeant, lieutenant, and detectives. This format has allowed us to communicate a lot to our listeners at some times when nothing's going on, and other times, unfortunately, like right now, when there's really been a lot going on in the city of Beaver Dam. We've had a apparent OWI homicide this week. I don't know if we're ready to quite call it that yet, and apparent domestic violence-related murder the weekend before last. Quite a tumultuous time in the city, Chief.
Yes, the last 3 years have been. We've had a lot of things go on, but with that being said, also Beaver Dam is still very, very safe. Crime has actually come down in a lot of areas. We brought crime down. It's just that we've had a few major incidents. But overall, if you look at the crime rates, and especially if you look at our crashes in the city of Beaver Dam, based on our totals for the last several years, I mean, we have really made a significant reduction in crashes in the city of Beaver Dam. I was looking at the annual report, and I was giving that to the Police and Fire Commission the other night, and we would average 420 to 480 crashes a year for 5-6 years straight. And then all of a sudden, I know in 16, I went out and got a grant to try to reduce the crashes and kind of educate people and target some areas in the city that we needed to target. And that has really paid off and really brought down our crashes. Now, this last year, 248 crashes. That's a big reduction. And that's been going down since 16 when we got this grant that it pays for everything. It doesn't cost the city taxpayers anything. So it pays for the officers' time and a half, the wear and tear in the vehicle, fuel, everything. So it's good to have that grant out there to be able to target certain areas in the city and keep them crashes down. So overall, crime has gone down in the city and we're very safe. We just have a few larger incidences that have occurred over the last several years.
And that annual report is something that you've always made available to the media. I've read it each year that that I've been here, that you've put it out. I imagine I'll be getting that when you give it to the council.
Yes, I have a
here in
copy
coming
with
weeks.
me today,
Oh,
and you could have a copy after the show. I can make sure that you get a copy.
Appreciate that, Chief. So in terms of, this idea that we're talking about, as far as, this safe community of Beaver Dam that, I mean, what was just last year, I think we were named like the 16th safest city according to one of those studies. Is Beaver Dam changing?
I don't know if it's changing. We're no different than any other community. We have our drug issues, and I think we have excellent working relationship with a lot of entities in Beaver Dam. I think we work well together with the community, and that's why we have programs like this. That's why we try to bring our supervisors and our officers in different areas of the department on the show. It's all about working with the community, and if you can't work with your community and have that relationship with your community, we can't be everywhere, and we don't know everything, and we need to have that working relationship with the community. So as much as we can get out there and talk to the community and be involved in the community, we know what's going on, and then we can. It's easier for us to handle those and deal with those problems if we work with our community.
Let me ask you, as far as the report is concerned, violent crimes, how's that? I mean, they've always been very low from year to year in there. What do they look like here in this year?
They're still low. As a few drugs-related crimes with drugs that drives up a few of the violent crimes, such as the robberies a little bit, but overall we're still safe, and overall we've made a significant increase in arrests for drugs in the city, so that has increased over the last 4 to 5 years.
Okay. The obviously the terrible news that we heard the weekend before last was that an apparent domestic violence murder had taken place. What can you tell us about that investigation in terms of where we're at? What can be released to the public at this time?
Well, it's still an ongoing investigation, so I have to be careful because I don't want to jeopardize the integrity of that investigation. So obviously, I'll just tell you there's information that I know, but I can't discuss or release at this time. But I can tell you some of the general things that we continue to do. Since then, we have the last several weeks, we've completed several search warrants, especially search warrants in Illinois. We've collected a lot of evidence that we have done. We're collecting a lot of official documents from a lot of courts from down in Illinois in the area that the victim lived. We've done all that. We've got a lot of evidence. The search warrants that we did were at her place of work and her home and so forth. There were some of the warrants we did, which we then gathered a lot of evidence. And we have a lot of that at our police department. Now it comes the tough part, and the part that's going to take a long time is starting to analyze what you all have and going through all that evidence. And some of that stuff will have to be sent to the crime lab because we're not going to be able to do that. And some of that evidence that we collect is going to take a long time to analyze. And that's where we're at now is analyzing a lot of the evidence that we've been collecting based on some of the search warrants.
How has it been working with your colleagues in law enforcement and other agencies in Illinois?
Very good. DeKalb, Illinois has been great. The state attorney's office down there has been great. Sycamore Police Department, where she lived, called me up right after that on that Monday and offered to several detectives to help us. It's been great. I know when I went to the funeral, they had sent some DeKalb officers down, and we had a few officers from the other areas in the attend the funeral too. So they've been great to us, and they've been more than willing to help us, and they've met us down here the last couple of weeks, and we've worked well together. So. And also up here, I want to give a shout out to the district attorney's office for all the things that Kirk Klomberg has done with us to work with us on this case. And it was really, he was able to work with their district attorney's office, and he has that relationship with that district attorney's office to make this easier for us to work with them by making that connection and being able to make that notification to their office. He handled that. He handled all the search warrants, and then he brought in another district attorney that night, James Zemp, to help us. So to have Kirk Klomberg be able to assist us and then have another assistant DA help us, that has been a tremendous help for us that night. And he put in a lot of hours and dedicated a lot of work for this case. And I want to really thank Kurt for everything he has done for us in this case.
When do you think we might see charges filed to the district attorney's office?
Well, it's going to be a while because we still, at some point, I would have refer that question to Kirk Klomberg. I wouldn't want to jeopardize any of this case that he's worked on with it. So what we do is we work closely with the district attorney's office. So we take a lot of advisement from the district attorney's office. So we will work closely with them to find out what the charges are and so forth based on the evidence. So we just had a meeting last week at the district attorney's office to go through information and talk about where we're at with the case. So that relationship will always be there until this case is fully resolved.
This appears to be a situation of domestic violence. Can you speak to the relationship that the Beaver Dam Police Department has with other groups in the community when it comes to trying to help people that may be in a domestic violence situation?
Yeah, we do a lot of things. We have changed our domestic paperwork routing, how we deal with that. That all domestic paperwork related, since I've become the chief, has gone to our detective, Heather Johnson, who does work with PAVE. She's directly part of PAVE, has been on the PAVE board, goes to the PAVE meetings. She's kind of my liaison between the police department and PAVE. She also reviews all the sexual assaults, child abuse cases. And what she does with those cases is she makes sure that there aren't any resources that are needed for these people. And if she could reach out to them, she reaches out to PAVE. We also do this Stop Back program where we work with PAVE. We get an advocate from PAVE, and we go back out and see if there's anything we can do to assist them. If there are any resources that we can offer to them. And PAVE has been great to work with. And I know the director's leaving. We're going to really miss her, but Ashley, who's in that position now, is excellent. We've worked with her many times, so I don't foresee any real changes coming, and I think we have an excellent working relationship with PAVE. And some of the things we've changed over the last several years was some of that paperwork, that homicide stuff that we had additional questions and were required to call PAVE. We had that all in place, and the reason we had that in place in case something like this could be screened out ahead of time. So those are the things that we have done, and also we work with a lot of other groups in town if we would need some other resources.
So the form that he's talking about, I can just mention it, I guess, from patrol and actually working on the road, is that we fill it out with them, and it has a whole bunch of questions about, have you ever been threatened with a gun before? Does the suspect have access to a weapon? Has he ever taken your phone from you, prevented you? There's a number of different questions on there, and you just go through the sheet, and if they answer yes to 1, 2, 3, or 4, it'll say contact PAVE, and we'll put them in contact with PAVE that night so that we can set up a safety plan initially right away. That was something that we didn't have in the past. We would give them information on PAVE, but this is now, not everybody wants the help, but at least we're going through it with them, and we give them the option to get the ball rolling that night to work with them if they need someplace to go or other resources.
I believe, and we had Pavon after that incident to talk about this very topic. I believe they refer to that as the lethal assessment.
Yep,
protocol.
lap form
form
is what we refer to it as.
And you working third shift, this is probably the type of crime that you see more on that shift than any other shift.
Yeah, we get quite a few domestic disturbances, and we use that form whenever we have one.
920-885-4446 is the phone number if you've got a question for Beaver Dam Police Chief John Kruezinger or Sergeant Eric Smiedema. We're talking about the unfortunate murder that occurred in Beaver Dam late last month. It's still an active investigation, so there are going to be some questions that can't be answered, but we do want to hear your comments and questions here on AM 1430 WBEV. We'll go to the phones and say good afternoon. Welcome to Community Comment.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call. Quick comment. Hey, you are right. Beaver Dam, relatively safe. For Milwaukee to keep up with your murder rate, I think I'd figure they'd have to have about 35 million people, for them to be as safe as you are in Beaver Dam. So I think you guys are doing a great job. My question is about terminology. A couple things, if you could clarify for me, and I don't know if anyone else is interested. One thing is, what's the difference between murder and homicide, looking at these two incidents that just recently happened? And the second is, you mentioned violent crimes and crashes. Is a crash different than just a regular accident? And violent crimes, what is included in your definition of violent crime? I'm going to hang up and listen. Again, Chief, Sergeant, thanks for being there. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for the call.
Thank you. And the first thing I want to thank all the officers. It's a credit that we're doing a great job because of everything that they do. So if you ever see an officer or you know their email, please send them an email. I always encourage that to keep their confidence up and to make sure that you thank them for what they do. Just you can go on the city's website, just pick an officer and just send them an email and thank them. That goes a long ways. And so I appreciate them comments, and I just want to make sure I give credit to the troops, the ones that are out there doing the job day to day. So I just try to be a good leader. So that's the first thing I want to say. The next thing I talked a little bit about, the crashes. Crashes are all accidents, no matter how small they are, if it's just a fender bender or if it's a more serious accident. Them are called crashes. It used to be called accidents, but the difference between an accident and a crash is now they say crashes, there's usually a cause, so that's why they're called crashes. Years ago they call them accidents. You can call them an accident or a crash. It really doesn't matter what you call them. It's just that terminology has changed just to say that there's usually a reason why that crash occurred, so they call it a crash. So violent crime is the other question. That is totally different than crashes. You have crime and then you have your crashes, so they're totally separate. So violent crime is your more serious crimes. That would be your robberies, your homicides, your aggravated assaults, your sexual assaults, all your more serious crimes that would require felony and jail time. That's what those more serious crimes are. Certain offenses of OWI can be injury or death, can be them are the more serious crimes. That's what is considered the violent crime. Murder and homicide.
I think it's just a matter of speaking. They're basically, it's the same thing. I think statute says homicide by first-degree homicide and that, and a lot of people I think call it murder. There's not really a difference as far as statute-wise. It's basically the same thing. It just depends on what the state calls it.
Though you would only see a homicide with an overdose or an OWI crash. With a murder, it seems a little more interchangeable on that level.
Right. In Wisconsin, it is considered a homicide. It's not considered a murder. We have that, too, where different states classify it different ways, and it's basically the same thing. We have people call it break-in and entry. And what break-in and entry? Well, break-in, we don't even have a break-in and entry. There's no such thing as break-in and entry. It's called a burglary. So sometimes when we do some of the software, when we have to enter some of the crimes into the database or what the crime is, some of that's the FBI has changed this last year with some of the stats and tried to get that more uniform so we don't have different ideas on what different crimes are. So at times it's just a matter of how they word it and what's the name of it, such as a murder or a homicide. They mean the same. Some may call them different, but they basically are the same, just like break-in and entry and burglary, just like some other crimes that they have names for.
Burglary and robbery seem to be the other two that there's
Right,
been
they get those
discussion
two
about in the
mixed up.
public.
Now, the burglary is actual to mostly, the easiest, simplest way of a burglary is a house where there is no force or there was no person around or usually no one's around. When you start using a person or a person is involved, that's usually a robbery. So if there's some type of force or a threat to someone, then that's considered the robbery. When a burglary is more a warehouse or a house where no one's around or something, that's considered just the burglary. But you could have a burglary with a robbery, or you could have an armed burglary. Then you get into all these other things that could happen. But
So let's wind down this segment by kind of following up on our conversation about interagency cooperation during a murder investigation. Obviously, a very sad situation with the murder here in Beaver Dam late last month. But it's not the only time in the past year Beaver Dam has been in the spotlight for a murder, and a Beaver Dam man was killed in the southern part of the county in October of last year. Can you give us some insight into interagency cooperation with officials that are handling that investigation?
yeah, we work together well with all different agencies. We usually the Sheriff's Department is there to help us, and they were there to help us again, and it was great that we were able to use their resources. I did call the sheriff and thank him for allowing us to have one of their detectives help us with one of the interviews. Also, some of the deputies helped us out with some of the calls because we were busy with calls, and it was great that they were able to step in. Also, the Department of Justice, we had their regular crime lab come and be able to collect the evidence and handle the scene at the house was great for them to be able to do that. And then, we get the State Patrol, which has a total station, which is a document station that documents a lot of the pictures and does a lot of measurements. They handled a lot of that. And then we handled all the interviews and the suspect's house and all the other things we handle, and then we do that. But yeah, we kind of got to work together, and you got to have those things, a lot of those things in places. And what we do is we have relationships built up with all these entities, so we can be able to call them and know what resources they can provide us. So when we do have an incident like this, we kind of know what we need, and we just make some phone calls, and we're able to get those resources when we need them.
And just to clarify, you're talking about the recent murder last month when you talk
Correct.
about those resources. There was a Beaver Dam man killed in October in Reeseville.
Yeah.
Did your agency have anything to do with that investigation?
No, we would not be involved in that. Usually we have enough to keep ourselves busy in the city, and usually we would do something if there was something that needed to be in Beaver Dam. I know we took one subject into custody for the Sheriff's Department that was actually in Beaver Dam. So if it relates, or if they would need some additional resources, they may mutual aid us there. It's a little bit farther than we would normally go, but we in Beaver Dam are willing to help out any city or village that needs some help. So if they need some help, I'm there. We'll provide any resources or any way that we can. We will do that.
920-885-4446 is the phone number if you've got a question for Sergeant Eric Smiedema or Police Chief John Kruezinger with the Beaver Dam Police Department. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation about these tragic incidents that have occurred in the Beaver Dam area here in recent weeks. We'll be back here in just a few moments.
Hi, this is Gary from Brooks Shoes and Repair, Main Street in downtown Waupun, inviting you to visit us for our annual spring sale, now through April 13th. Take advantage of 15% off all in-stock, regular sale priced, and special order footwear, $5 off smart wool socks. We offer friendly, full service with professional fitting and an in-store repair shop. Our spring sale is now through April 13th. Brooks Shoes and Repair, downtown Waupun.
During our working years, we try to accumulate as many eggs as possible for our retirement basket. But it's just as important to make sure our assets represent the level of risk and safety that we're comfortable with. At Hire Insurance, we can help you with a free risk analysis on our website at HEIARInsuranceLLC.com or stop in at our office at the Heritage Village Mall. Tune in to our weekly radio show, Senior Solutions, at 11:10 Friday mornings here on WBEV.
The emergency department and urgent care at Columbus Community Hospital is staffed by Madison emergency physicians, board certified in emergency medicine, the same physicians who staff the ER at St. Mary's Hospital in Madison. Open 24/7. The recent recipients of the Guardian of Excellence Award, Columbus Community Hospital, is here for you.
Got Stacy from Slumberland here with us right now. Slumberland in Beaver Dam and Watertown. 2019 already, Stacy. Can't believe it, can you?
I know. I blinked and 2018 was gone. We were so busy for 2018, but we're so grateful and so lucky to be in both communities. Beaver Dam and Watertown, they have such good community outreach and such a good community for us to be in. And we're just so thankful to all of our customers. We are seeing more and more people, buzzing through the doors. So obviously the word is out that we're in town. I know Watertown, we're kind of stuck out in the middle of nowhere, but it's kind of a perfect location because people Google us and then somehow they manage to make it there. So
easy to find.
Easy to find, yeah. But it's really nice. We're super thankful with all the customers that we've had. We've had a little bit of a changeover in staffing. So we're obviously always looking for some new help, which is really great. But I think 2019 is going to bring a really good year for us. We've made some really significant good changes at the stores, and we're really looking forward to a nice 2019.
Tune into the Garden Doctor Show every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. here on WBEV. Dick Zondag from the Jung Garden Center in Randolph invites your phone calls at 885-4446. When to plant, what to plant, and how to take care of what you plant. It's the Garden Doctor from the Jung Garden Center in Randolph, answering your questions right here on WBEV every Wednesday morning at 10:30. And if you missed the Wednesday morning show, hear the replay Saturday morning at 10 past 10. What do Frank Sinatra and Frankie Valli have in common? Besides all the great songs they recorded, they'll be appearing at an Evening to Celebrate tribute show featuring Jerry Armstrong at Bayside Supper Club on Saturday, April 6th. The pasta and salad bar will be served from 4:30 to 7:30, and the show begins at 6 p.m. Cost is $20 for adults, $10 for children, 6 and under get in free. There'll be games and raffles and fun for the whole family. This is a Children's Radiothon fundraiser and is being sponsored by the Arc of Dodge County and Green Valley Enterprises, as well as Bayside Supper Club and Dentistry of Wisconsin. Enjoy a great meal and fantastic entertainment. Advance tickets are available at Recheck's Food Pride and Beaver Dam Piggly Wiggly. Seating is limited, so get your ticket today. An Evening to Celebrate benefits the 2019 WBEV WXRO Children's Radiothon, Saturday, April 6th, Bayside Supper Club.
At Beaver Dam Piggly Wiggly on the beautiful east side of Beaver Dam, Daryl buys big. Why does that help you? Because he buys big on the items in the liquor department that he knows you want, like Kessler's, Corbel Brandy, Southern Comfort, Captain Morgan Rum, Fleischmann's Vodka, Barefoot Wine. What does that mean? It means all of the savings get passed on to you. So if you want to find your favorite name brand liquor items at the lowest price, there's only one place you need to shop. That's Beaver Dam Piggly Wiggly on the beautiful east side of Beaver Dam.
105 from AM 1430 WBEV. Beaver Dam. Take advantage of the Countryside Ford Quick Lane Works package. Oil change, tire rotation, and free inspection, $39.95. No appointment necessary. Open Monday through Saturday. Countryside Ford, 330 Transit Road, Columbus. Time for more of today's community comment. Here again is your host, Craig Warmbold.
And our guests are with the Beaver Dam Police Department, Sergeant Eric Smiedema and Chief John Kruezinger, talking about the incidents of the past couple weeks here in Beaver Dam. Some real unfortunate incidents have been taking place. In our first segment, we were talking about the murder of a young woman from Illinois, an apparent domestic violence situation. We do want to make a one point on that situation, and we probably can't put too fine a point on this, that there is a fund that's been established for the daughter of the victim.
Yeah, the officers, we're human just like everyone else, and we felt really bad for this 5-year-old girl and what she's going to remember of Beaver Dam and the last memories of her mother, and now she's not going to have that most important role models in her life, her mother and her father, and all our officers felt bad, and they started thinking, what can we do? How can we do something? They felt like they needed to do something for this poor little girl, and they felt that this was something they could do is start up. We already have a Beaver Dam Charities group, so they said, hey, let's do this. Let's get it started. And then we had DeKalb, Illinois, and the state's attorney's office jump on board with us and say, hey, we'll work with you too. Let's do a joint one. Let's do it together. And we were in contact with our DA to make sure that them funds would get specifically to this girl, because at 5 years old, we can at least do something to make it a little bit better. Obviously this 5-year-old is going to have a lot of things to overcome over the next quite a few years, so we felt we could at least try to do something to make things better. We felt that was better than nothing, so that charity was set up by our officers, set up through the American Bank downtown. We work with John Olthout on that to be able to set up some account, so at least we feel we could do something or try to make things better.
So people can go, that are listening to this program right now, whether they're listening live or on tape delay, pre-recorded, podcasted, they can go to the American Bank website.
I don't know if they have it on the website, but I know they can go to the downtown bank. Do you know that answer? I don't know.
I don't know for sure. I know they can stop in at either location or...
You can go to dailydodge.com and you can do a search for perhaps Beaver Dam Police Charities, or
and
we've got a link. We've got a link to that. So,
you do, and then we could, we'll work with.
I thought you had the answer to that one, Chief.
I have the answer to everything.
Right.
I don't know everything either.
But you can. There's a Facebook page for Beaver Dam Police Charities too.
Yes, there is.
And
there is.
and all that information, I got all that information on there as well. So you can
Correct.
go to that Facebook page, and there may even be some stuff on. I don't know if there's anything on the official Beaver Dam Police Department website page, but 2 resources you can go. You can donate, or you can walk in to the American Bank branches.
American Bank.
Those of us who aren't listening, I hope did I call it American Bank?
I almost.
I didn't slip national in there.
I almost
did.
did.
So you can go, and if you're listening from outside the community, again, go to dailydodge.com. Maybe I'll make a point to put that on our Facebook page as well, dailydodge.com's Facebook page, and we'll put it up at the top so that folks can find that.
Yeah, I know when I went to the funeral, we had a show for the city of Beaver Dam, for the Beaver Dam Police Department. I went to the funeral down in Illinois. It was down in the southern part of Illinois, and to see that 5-year-old and to be able to give her a hug again, just in uniform, just to be able to have Beaver Dam officer give her a hug, that felt good. And it's for what all happened and what went on and what she'll remember. So
you represented Beaver Dam.
Yeah, I represented the city of Beaver Dam and the Beaver Dam Police Department at the funeral. So, and it was really, like I said, it was really good to feel that girl come up and give a hug to her, and hopefully she can remember that at least.
It's been a sad situation.
It was very, very sad. They had all the prosecutors from the DeKalb, Illinois office were there. They had officers from DeKalb, Illinois come down, myself, and then some from the county down there, and then the family, and she also had a huge military presence because she did 11 years in the military as an intelligence analyst. So she had, and her career was in full swing as the district attorney's office. So she was doing very well.
Certainly, our thoughts and our prayers go out to the family following that very tragic incident.
Yeah, very tragic.
And really, it's been a tumultuous couple weeks in the city of Beaver Dam. We go 1 week to less than 10 days later, another tragic situation, a fatal crash from the Madison Street Bridge on the south side of town into the Beaver Dam River below, and one individual succumbing to injuries, one who was rescued, and a search for 4 hours at your agency that seemed like the fire department spearheaded that, but there was confusion as to whether or not there was a child missing, a 2-year-old, for it seemed like, 3 or 4 hours, essentially, at least 3 hours into the early morning hours before realizing that the child was actually. Officers were treated for hypothermia after the incident at the hospital. We do have one of those officers here with us. It is Sergeant Eric Smiedema. Sergeant Smiedema, wow. This incident happens, and you respond to the scene because you work third shift, as we established earlier. This is 2 in the morning, 1:52 a.m. Tell us what happens when you arrive on scene.
Officer Borchert got there first, Ryan Borchert. He kind of let us know where it was and that he needed a rope. So I proceeded to take off I have an outer vest carrier with a lot of my equipment on, took that off, and then took my duty belt off with my gun. When you're responding to something like that, your mind's going 100 miles an hour. I remember to grab my baton, but I didn't remember to bring my flashlight. However, Officer Borchard had his flashlight, so it ended up working out where everybody brought something that we ultimately needed. So I went down to where he was. There was a vehicle upside down, mostly submerged. There's maybe foot and a half of the bottom of the car sticking out. First thing I asked Ryan was how he got down, because you have to go down the retaining wall, which is estimate 10 to 12 feet. And he goes, I jumped. Wow. So I'm looking down. I'm like, this isn't I'm gonna break my ankle before I even get to the water, because you're jumping down on rocks. So lowered myself down. I got down. He went. Ryan won't mind me saying this, but he can't swim. So Officer Keene had brought a life jacket, found one in the back of the squad cars, because we have them in our squad cars, and we also had a thin nylon rope. So he put that on. We were able to. The current was pretty strong. The water was a little bit right around waist deep. We were able to wade out to get to the vehicle, but then you had to hold on, otherwise the current was going to take you down river. Well, how the car was positioned, obviously now we had to figure out how to get inside. We didn't know if anybody was inside at the time. It seemed like all the windows were intact, so it seemed to us that there were probably people inside yet. We didn't have any reports from witnesses that anybody had gotten out. So we initially tried using the baton. However, due to the fact the vehicle was upside down in the water, you couldn't hit far enough down to hit the window. So that was the first problem that we ran into. And at this point, me, Ryan, and Mike are all in the water, and we're trying to figure out a plan on how we're going to get inside the car. We had Lieutenant Reel. He was on shore holding the rope so that we had something to hold on to so that we didn't get swept down the river. We ended up talking to a resident who was a witness and asked if they had a hammer. They went and got us a hammer. We tried using that. You couldn't hit low enough in the water to get to the window. So at that point, we're still trying to brainstorm how we're going to get in this vehicle. Officer Mike Keene had tried the back door and was able to pop the door open. How the vehicle was facing, we had to push the door into the current to get it open. It wasn't with the current, so we had to push it back towards upriver, where obviously the current was coming from. The three of us were able to push the back door open. They held the back door. I didn't go in the car. I looked obviously it's in the middle of the night, it's dark, it's river water, so it's not like it's clear water that you're looking through. I was able to see in the back. I could see a car seat. Didn't look like there was a child in it. I couldn't see anybody else. I yelled to the front of the car. Obviously, when the car's upside down, you can't see into the front because the seats are in the way. So then we thought of another plan. Well, if the back door is unlocked, we just figured that the doors were probably going to be locked, and if they weren't, we weren't going to be able to get them open. We were able to get start working on the front door, and we were able to push it open enough, and then we saw an arm come up, and then Officer Keene grabbed onto the arm and pulled a female up, up to her torso area. But then we had to have at least 2 officers holding the door open while Officer Borchard was holding her out of the water. And I don't know what the timeline was or how long. I talked to some deputies later. They thought we were in the water for up to 15 minutes before we were able to. But we held her there. We took one of the nylon ropes and tied it around her. And then it took me and Mike all we could do to pry the door the rest of the way open so we could get her all the way out, her feet and everything. And then eventually we were able to, with the use of the rope, the fire department was there and gave us another stronger rope that we could attach to our nylon rope, and we were able to carry her back to shore. And then at that point they had ladders and stuff set up so that we could get back up the retaining wall, because now that they had that retaining wall, that wasn't there, and for some of the past river incidents we had, we were able to get her back up to shore. And at that point, we had been in the water so long that I could feel it. I could definitely feel it in my legs that they were starting to get a little weak from fatigue and from the cold. And so I told the other guys that we got to get out. And by that time, the fire department was there, and they obviously have a suit and different equipment where they can go in and actually continue the rescue.
Gumby suits, I believe
Yeah.
they call them. Yeah. So you open the door, the back door first, and then the front door.
Correct.
Does water begin rushing into the car at this point?
It doesn't really get any higher because I think it was already had been filled with water. I think once it rested where it was, water eventually seeped in and had filled up. So it didn't really, once we opened it, the water didn't rise any further in the vehicle.
Where were the occupants' heads in relation to the water level? Below water?
That we don't even know. We couldn't see. All we saw was the arm, and we pulled the arm. And that's, we couldn't see anything else. We didn't know if anybody else was in the vehicle at that point.
Did you guys stick your head in the vehicle?
I did in the back, but
you couldn't see over.
There was maybe a 1.5 foot gap from there to the top of the, it's upside down, so I guess the bottom of the car. There's maybe a foot gap that you could see in, but still the water's so dark, even with a flashlight, you wouldn't have been able to necessarily see anybody, even if they were in the bottom. But obviously we weren't going to go in that car at that point, because if you go inside that car, who knows if you're going to be able to get back out. So
it could swept downstream even further. The doors could lock.
We didn't have the equipment. We're dressed in our police uniforms and boots and.
Oh, you still had your boots on?
Yeah, we just left there. We just went in, and it would have been tough, I think. It kind of weighed you down a little bit, but with how rocky and stuff it is, it was nice to have at least some protection on our feet.
Can we talk about the confusion about there being other individuals in the car? There were 2 in the car, we've determined here now in retrospect, but it was believed that there was as many as 5 people in the car at one point?
I can talk a little bit about it. I don't want to get, obviously it's still an ongoing investigation. We just got different information on possibly more people. And obviously until you actually go in and clear that car, you don't know how many people are in. We were pretty confident that nobody was, since the windows weren't necessarily broken, that we were pretty sure that nobody, once we got the doors open, obviously we would have saw somebody get past us, and it would have been very difficult for somebody inside that vehicle to be able to push a door open, I think, to get out. So we were, but you still can't take that. You still can't take that chance if you got information like any other incident that there could possibly be more victims or whatever else. Obviously the fire department, the police department and stuff has to follow up with it just to make sure that you aren't missing anything, and you never know.
What do you think of these officers of yours, Chief, that risk their own safety to help save this individual whose car drove over a bridge into the Beaver Dam River?
Well, that's what we do as officers. We always run towards issues like this, and we do have officers that care, and I have to provide them the proper equipment, which you could see we had ropes, we had life jackets. That's my job, to provide them the tools to be able to do something like this, and then we need to provide the training so they're able to train to do something like this. It has to be something that comes second nature, where they don't have a lot of time to think. So, you have to practice and train for this, and we have. And these officers did an excellent job that night, great teamwork. I can't thank them enough for what they did. There's no question in my mind they saved her life. There is no question, no doubt about that. If it wasn't for these officers and what they did, they definitely had saved their life. And how they went about it came back to thinking it through, working as a team, and their training and having the right equipment allowed them to do this rescue and to plan this together and be there for each other and work with each other. But some of the things he was telling me more about it in detail was just unbelievable how they worked together. So I can't thank them enough. I can't say enough about it. I understand when I went to the hospital, they were awful cold and shivering and had a lot of warm blankets on them. And they were there for quite a while to get warmed up. So I thank them, and I thank you for what you did, and I thank your fellow teammates, and thank you for your great teamwork, and thank you for Karen, and thank you for everything you did. I greatly appreciate it as a leader, and as the chief. I appreciate that.
Might we see some commendations come down for any of the officers
there definitely
involved?
will be. We just want to let the investigation go on a little bit more yet before we do something. So maybe then we can talk a little bit more about it, so that'll make it, you'll understand a little bit more of what they did. But based on all the information I have, phenomenal, just what these officers did that night. And thank you again.
What kind of training prepares you for something like?
I guess we have a little bit of training. We have some throw bags and stuff that we have in the squad car, like Chief was talking about. Other than that, I guess it's something you're expected to do. You don't think twice about. It's going to be cold, and obviously it's dangerous. And I give that a tribute to all our officers in the department, early, well trained and good. Would jump in there. I can tell you, my officers on third shift, that if I ever want to be in the water with somebody, it's those guys, because there was nobody panicking. That they're all even-headed. It was two of the same guys that were at pulled the female out of the burning apartment. Mike Keene and Ryan Borcher were both at that one too. So obviously, they work well under pressure, and in that type of situation, you can't get panicked. And I think just having those guys there, because could have easily just started panicking and not tried the door and not ended up getting in. And obviously, time is of the essence at that point. But everybody stayed calm. We talked. This is what we should do. This is what we should try next. And it ended up working out for the best. No officers got hurt. We were a little bit cold, but I have to thank the fire chief too. He let me sit in his squad car. Ryan was sitting in the passenger side, and once we finally got out, and he will go sit in the car. I don't know if it was him or somebody else. It's kind of a blur. After I said, in the driver's seat of the chief's squad car? Yeah, just go in there and get warmed up. I said, oh, all right, well, you probably had a wet ride on the way home, because I was pretty wet, and we also didn't smell the greatest from being in the river. So I don't know how his squad car smelled afterwards.
That's off to you. I don't
know. We had close situations, or we've had situations where we've had water things like this happen before, and we sat down and critiqued it and said, what could we have done different? What equipment do you need? How could we have done that different? And I think that prepares them for something like this. Obviously, there isn't ice, but there's water, and it's cold, and you kind of prepare, what are your limits? And you know, when we first got the throw-ups, I thought everybody thought it was nuts, because we were throwing this and practice throwing them, but that's what you want to do. You get these things, you try them, you practice them. It sounds kind of dumb to be practicing with throw-ups, but that's what you want to do. And what's your limits? What can you do with it? How can we use this equipment? And you go through that as part of the training. And in this case, they used the tools that they had, and we'll reevaluate this thing to see if there's any additional tools or equipment that we can get them. But I get the wonder after a while, sometimes our squads start to sag in the back, because we get so much different equipment for all the different things where we can do and what we're expected to do. And usually we're the first on the scene, so that's usually, especially at night shift, they can get there fairly quickly. So thank you again.
Good work. Alcohol and speed a factor in this?
Alcohol and speed are a factor. That's what I can say at this time, yes. I can't get into the details on the alcohol and speed at this time, but they are factors.
Can you give us some insight into what type of charges may be pending?
That's what we work with the district attorney with. That'll come based on the evidence that we obtain, and it'll also be based on what happened. So as we get more details on how this thing happened, and as we get more and more evidence, we'll be able to figure out what are the proper charges and with the district attorney.
So charging weeks, days, months?
It depends on how this comes together. It depends how quick we can get everything. You know, we try to get things together as quick as we can, and but yet we want to have everything together to make an informed decision. And at some point, I would think within a month or so, within the next month here, we should be able to have something.
We have just a few minutes left. If we could switch gears for a minute here and talk about another one of the items that's still under investigation, I think technically, but is playing out right now on the city council level, and that's another round of demerit points being assessed against a bar on Madison Street, Johnny's Lounge. They're currently in the process of appealing a round of points under the city's demerit point ordinance for liquor license holders from a closing time fight in June of last year that could result in a 15-day suspension of their license. Now they're looking at another possible suspension, possible revocation for a fight in December of last year. Can you give us some insight into the police department's role in the demerit point ordinance as it relates to this?
Okay, what happens is the officers go to the call and they gather the information, they do a report, and that report then gets forwarded to my deputy chief, who reviews it and makes a recommendation. Then he forwards it on to me, and then I review that, and then I assess the points. And this one in December, they were assessed points. Since then, we have sat down with the owner and the attorney that was with the first case, and we explained to them that that's what we always do. We always, the goal of this point system is to sit down with people and make sure that there's communication between the police and the tavern. So we sit down and say, okay, these are the issues, these are the concerns we have, what do you plan on doing to correct those problems, how are we moving forward from here, and what's going to change. And that's why we do that, is so they are put on notice. They do understand that we have some concerns, so they don't get revoked or suspended immediately right away, and we understand that this is part of their livelihood and this is part of their business. But that's the goal, having that meeting. We do that the same with every single time points have been assessed. Myself, the city attorney, usually the mayor, and the city administrator is always there at those meetings. And I usually like to bring along the sergeant and the lieutenant that are on duty that night and are on that shift. So the reason we do that is to have that conversation back and forth and to talk about the situation and what could be done different and what we expect from them and what could we do better to help them and how can we assist them so we don't have these problems reoccurring. And we've done that with other buyers and assessed points to other buyers, and it's worked very, very well. And they have put some things in place based on these conversations and these meetings. That we just had that meeting with them with this second incident to discuss what they were going to do, what changes they were going to make, and that's the goal of these meetings, is to make sure that we don't have this reoccurring, to make sure we don't get to these suspensions and revocations and not renewing your license, and making sure that that gets corrected.
So is that a productive meeting then that
It's
you had
very
with them?
productive. It's been very productive with other establishments in Beaver Dam. It's worked very well for us because we make sure there is no communication concerns or issues, and make sure that they understand what we expect of them, and make sure they understand the demerit system. They get a copy of that with their license, but sometimes we have to review it with them, and we get, at that point, we don't want to tell a business how to run their business, what they should and shouldn't do, but when you start having demerit points being assessed to you, we start suggesting things that they need to do, and sometimes we almost demand that they do that, and so we can get some type of compliance. And that we want to see them follow through with some of those plans or suggestions that we give them. We still can't, or whatever they want to do or how they want to run that business is up to them. But if they want to prevent themselves from getting additional points or for getting into this situation where we have suspensions and revocations, that's the point of that meeting.
And we just have a minute here or so left. The administrative committee in the city did decide to pursue charges. They were filed. The charges have to be recommended by an individual in the city, sometimes a member of the police department. Is that what happened in this case?
Correct. What we'll do is we'll have a complainant, which will be a police officer. That'll be the complainant. And then he'll be represented or being presented an attorney, and then the city will have their attorney. And I was just talking to the city attorney this morning about that case and moving forward, and we'll have a discussion, and at some point we're going to make probably a recommendation to the administrative committee for that incident, and then it'll be up to them to make the decision. So I assess the points. What they do is they have the ultimate decision on what happens or what they should do, and what the number of days, or if there should be any suspension or just whatever they wish.
Well, we appreciate the insight into that and to all of the incidents that we talked about on today's program. We do appreciate you coming in, Chief. And Sergeant Smeedema, it's always good to see you. Next time we see Sergeant Smeedema, he'll be Lieutenant Smeedema.
Yes, he will be.
And the next time that we
Congratulations.
see... Congratulations. The next time we see Officer Jeremiah Johnson, he'll be Sergeant Jeremiah Johnson.
Yep.
We, again, do want to thank the police chief for joining us on the program. A reminder that Beaver Dam Police Charities, you can go to their Facebook page. You can look for a link on our Facebook page on dailydodge.com as well. Beaver Dam Police Charities, if you would like to make a donation to the little girl who was unfortunately the real victim and victimized by the loss of the death of her mother, apparently at the hands of her father, BeaverDamPoliceCharities.com or Beaver Dam Police Charities on Facebook. Thanks again for joining us today.
You
guys.
bet. Thanks for having us.
That is going to do it for today's community comment.
Tune in to AM 1430 WBEV for coverage of the Milwaukee baseball game this Sunday, and listen for the Columbus Family Dentist